Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBOR Black Box Online Radio. I apologize if I seem like I'm a little out of it. It's about 7 a.m. where I live right now, and I did not get any sleep last night for no particular reason at all. It might have something to do with staying up all night watching garbage on the internet, but you've probably done the same thing once or twice in your life, so it's all good, right? All in good fun. Now, today we're going to talk about the Elisa Lam case, and this is one of the things that I've wanted to kind of do for a while, but I didn't really know how to go about it exactly. So I thought I would just sort of, just kind of say it, speak from the heart, and just really discuss some things that I've really noticed about this one. This is not going to be so much sort of a play by play about all of the details that went into the case. It's more going to be a sort of general overview of how this case really sort of changed a lot of things in internet culture. And, somebody was posting online that the Maura Murray case, which I hope to cover soon, was the first mystery for the internet age. And I really sort of had to think that I think the Elisa Lam case was the first mystery for the internet age of its magnitude, of its, popularity. Like, I found out about Elisa Lam, and of course, I mean, if you're watching this, you probably already know who she is, but might as well throw in a background sentence. She was a Canadian citizen who was found dead in a water tank at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, after appearing to be sort of kind of out of it and showing some deranged behavior on a surveillance camera. And the CCTV footage, of course, made it to the internet, and it became a large part of all of the Countdown web series, became a large part of podcasts, investigations, you name it. They even made, of course, a couple documentaries and a fictional film already available all online. You can all check out for yourself. And if you, I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of it already. And it was really those things I noticed that, it was just, there was this enormous fascination with the case. And I even found that a lot of countdown sites were even posting in their descriptions, when they talk about unsolved mysteries or, bizarre things caught on tape. They were actually posting, in the description boxes like, yes, Elisa Lam will not be featured in this. We've already covered her case so many times. And, the coroners and the medical examiners and the police all seem to have concluded that she was found on a water tank dead by accident. Her family openly said, she was a 21-year-old girl who fell off her medication, and, it was the result of her bipolar disorder. I mean, that's a very, very big nutshell version of the case. But the real feeling to sort of put out there is this really showed how one mystery can sort of change the internet culture, because this really challenged a lot of things that people, were really saying about missing persons cases. And believe it or not, I mean, my personal feeling was before Elisa Lam, they were really trying to sort of insinuate that when these young women go missing, that people are only going to get fascinated with the case if it's a white woman. I mean, that was something that I have heard, in discussion groups, and definitely with people in my personal life, there was always just like, they're only talking about her because she was a young, attractive white girl. And Elisa really changed that. I mean, like, obviously, because, Elisa was, of course, of Chinese descent. And, it's just like, it really shows you that race is not really a boundary in this, and race is not really holding something back. And, I think what really was the difference was we got the chance to see Elisa Lam on footage. And, who hasn't had a friend or themselves done some kind of bizarre behavior when they thought no one was looking? And this was something that any person in the world could interpret. Any person in the world could have, like a solid opinion, and they could throw in their 2 cents about what was happening. They could make real interpretations. Whereas in a lot of other true crime cases, you have to go through very, very intense information in the case files, very specific and detailed information, and some requires a lot more expertise than others. But, it's like, this case was pretty much open to the entirety of humanity, if you will. However, it's like they also brought up a lot of things with this one. Why I think, it's like I said, it really had a much higher magnitude than a lot of other missing persons cases. One of the biggest ones was ethics. Because at this point, maybe just, the American and Canadian cultures are changing, but I really found that a lot of people were prefacing this case by, really trying to say, it's like, this is not just a mystery we're trying to solve. This is not just, entertainment. It's like this is a real person who lost their life and a real family has lost their child. And, I really noticed that, from Kaylee Elise. And there's also a very great web channel called Brain Scratch, which is hosted by a man named John Lorden, who just has so much integrity. And he really started his channel primarily to focus on the Elisa Lam case. And his show, Brain Scratch, has become so much more popular. And, he does excellent work. But he really got into it because he was just sort of saying people are covering the case, but they're not covering the substance material. And I began to notice that other YouTubers were also really trying to do it. They were really trying to really tone up, the accuracy and the what is the exact word? The verifiability, if for lack of a better word, of the information, because they're like, we can't just be throwing out crazy, ridiculous theories about someone, you know, who has real family members that are still in the grieving process. This isn't something from 30, 40 years ago. This is, part of a case that was ongoing. And really, when Elisa Lam rose to popularity, the court cases were still being sorted out, and the family was going to try to see if they could sue the Cecil Hotel or not. And all of these, things were in the heat of the moment. So I think it really raised a lot of ethical things about how the internet community, the web sleuths, and the armchair detectives really should be approaching, this material with a certain sensitivity. And, I think it was for the better. Another big thing that I have really seemed to notice is that the armchair detectives really, put in some very, very good work, and they were on par with the police. The armchair detectives, and like even as one who followed the case, very, very closely myself, everybody was coming to the same conclusion. And sort of like the people who are just sitting on the internet, reviewing and evaluating the information, just looking at the documents that were available, were coming to the same conclusions as the medical examiners and the police officers. And that really sort of also gives me hope that in the future, more armchair detectives and more people on the internet can contribute to solving cases. Because this really shows that we're not just a bunch of people with wacky theories. We're not just a bunch of people who are talking about silly stuff. No, these are actually people who can contribute a strong opinion and a strong interpretation, and they can reach very tenable conclusions. They can reach very valid conclusions, and hopefully that in the future we're going to have more people who are examining information on the internet help solve more cases. And I think that's just sort of the simple truth of the matter. And really, we again need to say that this was a very difficult tragedy, and the Elisa Lam case could, it's heartbreaking for the family, and it's something that has also really connected the internet community in a lot of different ways. Like we saw some of the very same similarities in the case of Caitlin Louder. We saw some similar similarities in the case of Kenika, and it was just like, once again, this has nothing to do with race that we have learned, and in another case like Lars Mittank, it has nothing to do with gender as well. People really just want to solve the case because they feel like it's the right thing to do, and let's be honest, this does challenge your mind. There is a certain problem-solving value that goes into this, but really, people just want to get answers, and in a lot of true crime cases, only the people on the internet are the ones doing anything. like the police have put this away, it's in a cold case file, and it's not going to get any further examination. So we really have to give, a lot of support out to people who are really doing the hard work. And, there are a lot of armchair detectives who go through all of the documents, every single possible scrap of evidence, and they try to reach a very solid conclusion. And really, it's just like nothing but respect goes out to those people, especially the ones who can, handle it with a sort of certain sense of integrity, who can just be like, yes, this person, I mean, like they were involved as, a sort of, internet Weber celebrity post mortem, but they did have family members. We have to acknowledge that it was a tragedy. We have to be very, very sensitive about how we do this, and accuracy is paramount. So I really think that I'm feeling much more optimistic in the future about, exploring true crime cases, and like I said, and that's going to be the title of this one, Elisa Lam changed internet culture, and it's a shame that these tragedies do happen, but you know, we're going to move onward. I'm going to move onward with a sense of optimism. Well, thank you for tuning into the Black Box Podcast once again. That's all for now, and see you next time.